Welcome to the channel. Today's date is November 18th. And what we're going to be talking about today is America collapsing before our very eyes. Let's get straight into it. So today we're going to talk about, is America collapsing? And I find this to be interesting. And we're talking about economically. And I find it to be interesting that we have so much going on that's bad in the economy, and we have a stock market that is at all-time highs, which makes it easy to predict that we're going to have an epic collapse. But before I get into that, I'm going to ask you to please share, please like, and please follow. Most importantly is please follow. Because if you've been watching my videos, you know that basically a super bear. I'm looking for a 20 easily to 50% correction. And the reason why I say that is that the market is so high and our economy is doing so bad. And Buffett has a saying that he says, always be proud when you're thinking opposite the crowd. And when that comes to the stock market, it could be very, very difficult. Where most investors or speculators, whatever you want to call them, they tend to make really big mistake. The two biggest mistakes that they make is that they follow the crowd. And so what do you mean by that? Is right now we're at all-time highs. We're down a little bit, but we're at all-time highs and we're on a sugar high. And I believe that this is the most dangerous market that I've seen in my 30-year investing. This is the most dangerous market that I've seen in my 30-year investment, where most people are just now coming to the market. They just now buying in the market. And that's normally what most investors do. When it just going up, going up, going up, going up, they make the big mistake and they start purchasing stocks. And then what happens is when the bear market comes and their investment drops between 50 and 75%, they do the exact opposite then. Now they're not thinking opposite the crowd. When stocks are their most time that they should be purchased the most, they actually say that stocks are too risky. And I'm saying what I'm saying here is I'm saying the total opposite. I'm saying that as we're pushing through these new all-time highs, we're at this crazy evaluation. This is when we're the most at risk right here. This is when we're the most at risk. If you don't like the saying, be proud when you think opposite crowd, go with Buffett saying, be very fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful. It's two cliches, but it really works. And it takes, on both ends, it takes a hard time to stomach when it's time to sell, because you're afraid you're going to miss out on more upside. And on the opposite side, when stocks are tanking and it's fear all over the street, that's when the time for stocks at their most favorable time to buy. And to have the courage to go in and purchase stocks at that time can be difficult, and I recognize it. It takes a long time to learn. It took me a while to learn. But I read a lot of Benjamin Graham. I follow Warren Buffett. And so I educated myself. So why do I say is America in collapse? I don't know if you heard about it. Advanced Auto Parts said they were going to close 700 and something stores, like 500 and something that's company owned, and 200 and something that's kind of like franchises. So I read a little bit here to not so much just totally focus on Advanced Auto Parts. And it ain't just Advanced Auto Parts. There's a lot of fast food restaurants closing. I mean, Big Lots went bankrupt. They're closing over 500 and something stores. This is going around all the way around. Major retailers have announced 6,189 store closures so far this year, already outpacing last year's total of 5,553. According to CoreSite Research, chains are on track to close the highest number of stores in 2024 in any year since 2020, and when the pandemic decimated businesses. So I would say that you got to kind of exclude that. That was a pandemic. And it'll be interesting to know when was the last time they closed this many stores without the pandemic. But this next paragraph is really, really important. Closures have picked up this year because the retail sector's sugar high in 2021 and 2022, when the consumers were snapping up new couches, televisions, and clothing, has ended. Companies have raised prices higher than many consumers can afford, and interest rates have soared, making it more expensive to borrow money for big ticket items and to get a mortgage or a car loan. We've been talking about this. Consumers have reached their breaking point and are pulling back on items that they don't absolutely need. There's a couple good things in that paragraph right there. A lot of retailers not so much expanded, but they was carrying higher inventory because people was purchasing a lot of items, and they should have known at some point that that was going to end. And that companies have raised prices. So I talk about the auto industry all the time. I talk about housing all the time. I talk about how rent is unaffordable right now. So with all these store closings, with all these high mortgages, with all these car parts, the car industry is in complete shambles. And it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. General Motors and Ford, General Motors announced, I believe it was Friday, 1,000 employees being laid off, but that's going to get worse. It's going to have to hit the factories. They absolutely got to stop producing more cars because there's cars on the car lot that are just not selling. They're not selling because they're too expensive. I need a new truck. I got a 2016, but my truck is just, I got to keep riding. I refuse to pay almost double or even upwards of 50% for a car that I bought, 8 years ago. I mean, and it's up like 50 to 100%. I'm not buying no car like that. I'm going to wait. They offering rebates, $6,000 rebates. It's funny. I seen a commercial this weekend. They're down to 0% on cars. I knew that was coming. I knew it was coming because they got to do something to get rid of the inventory, but they need to lower the price of these cars. And when we look at all these store closures, one of the things that we're forgetting, is that these are jobs too. So if Advanced Auto Parts is closing up 700, I think it's 723 stores, how many employees is that? They're open 7 days a week. Let's say each one of them got 10 employees. Each store got 10 employees. And by the way, they're closing 4 warehouses also. So, that might be, they're not accounting layoffs, and I'm sure some of them employees are going to get to go work at other stores if they have job openings. But they're going to lose, is that 10,000 jobs being lost? This is the most obvious thing that I've ever seen in my investment career. I kind of knew that the housing craze was out of control between like 2000, 2007. I knew those loans, these crazy loans they was giving out wasn't going to make it. But I didn't predict that it was almost a collapse. At that time, America really was burning. And this what's going on? And I believe it's only going to get worse because I talked about it a little bit in my last video. I think that what's happening is the people on the low end of the economic scale are already doing horrible. They're doing bad. I say they really can't. They're barely affording to feed themselves, and they're barely affording to house themselves. And that may not change. That may not change. I think we have to get used to, kids having to stay home longer with their parents, or people rooming up together. I know in Canada, they have people renting out their basements, for like $350 a room. And you don't even get a room, you just get a bed, and they just separate it by sheets. Canada's doing bad as we are. So this is the most easiest prediction of the imbalance of what the equity market is doing as compared to what the real economy doing. But what's going to happen in the future, I believe, people that got money, people that got really good pensions, If we see this 20 to 50% correct, especially a 50% correction, and the majority of people, a lot of people are in ETFs, like the SPY and the QQQ, which we talk about all the time. And when they see their portfolio drop by 50%, what happens is they don't feel that they're doing as well. And so they spend less. And what that's going to do, that's going to take us down into more of a spiral. It ain't going to happen to me, though. I'm in T-bills. I refuse to give the money back. I did really well from 2022 to now. We had a nice correction, about a 25-30% correction in the market. I loaded it up at that time. And in my portfolio, I did very well. And I refuse to give that money back. And I'll make a whole video on this. But Buffett, he said there's 2 rules to investing. The first rule is never lose any money. Never lose any money. The second rule is never forget rule number 1. So I'm saying that the market is so high and in such a bubble and it's so risky that I'm thinking opposite the crowd. But the good part and the reason why I say that you need to follow me, because at some point, I don't know when, I don't know if it's going to be 1 year, 2 years, I don't know when, but we're going to have, I don't know if it's 2 months. I'm actually hoping it's 2 months because I want it to happen before the inauguration, because I'm really worried if it happens during the new president's starts when his term and once he's in office. I'm really worried about that. So once the correction do come and the market is collapsing, I'm going to have to reverse. I'm going to have to turn. I'm not going to be bearish no more. I'm going to be bullish. And I hope that y'all say, oh, it was this crazy guy on there talking about the market is going to collapse. This is a disaster. But if it comes true, or not even if, when it comes true, I'm going to have to reverse and I'm going to have to start buying. It's going to be a sad moment for a lot of people out there, but it's going to be an exciting moment for me. I'm going to be jumping for joy. And you're going to want to be there. You're going to want to be there when I'm jumping for joy and I'm buying up everything. And maybe I may be the one that helps you say, man, we got to think opposite the crowd. We got to think opposite the crowd. I hope this information was beneficial. Again, if it was, please share, please like, help a friend out. It'll help my YouTube page expand so that more people can get this information. I want everybody to get paid. That's one of the beautiful things about this. It ain't like getting a job where you're competing in an interview. One person get the job and the other person don't. So you're competing in this. We're not competing. If I do well, don't mean you can't do well. That's one of the beautiful things about the stock market. But good luck investing, and we out.